If you're a writer like me, you've always been fascinated by Oxford University. Whether it's Tolkien and C.S. Lewis's famed friendship, the secret passages and mysteries of the scholars in the Golden Compass, Diana retrieving the enchanted alchemical manuscript from the Bodleian in Discovery of Witches, or the fact that Emma Watson goes there. The history, traditions, magic, intrigue of Oxford are irresistible, but unreachable for most of us. Oxford is a town of high walls around all of the colleges with these beautiful grounds and libraries, books, dining rooms, classrooms that none of us get to experience, unless, of course, you are an 18-year-old who is a genius and can apply. But I got to experience what it was like to write inside those walls. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can experience it too. In the summer of 2025, I attended the Oxford Creative Writing Summer School, and I have since made it my entire personality. Just kidding on that, I hope. But I'm going to tell you all about the Oxford Creative Writing Summer School in this video. We're going to talk about what it is, if it's legitimate, how you apply, how much it costs, what happens in the program, the entire structure, who attends it, and like the vibes and the social life. And then at the very end, my tips for how to apply and get in and for how to get the most out of the program. So the Oxford Creative Writing Summer School is put on by the Oxford Department for Continuing Education that I believe has had a recent rebrand to Oxford Lifelong Learning. They offer classes for adults online throughout the school year. They offer weekend classes, and then in the summer, they have numerous residential courses where the idea is you as an adult get to show up and take a class, anything from history, science, computer science, and lots of classics in there, and experience a little bit of Oxford. Now, most of those classes are 1 or 2 weeks long, but the Creative Writing Summer School is a 3-week long program that I would call an intensive academic immersion. Now, the first thing I thought when I heard about this program was, okay, is it just like a tourist thing? Like, is this actually like going to Oxford at all? And it is, and it isn't. There's obviously a tourism aspect to this program. I'm going to talk about the trips that they organize and the walking tours and that kind of thing. But it is a legitimate academic program. There were people there, actually many people, who were in the middle of MFAs, who were using this as credit for their masters. Even a couple of undergrads there who were using this program as credit. So they got credentials and stuff for it. So it is a program that is legitimate. You are going to school. You have homework. You have grades. Like, I have my test sheets right here. And you're expected to attend the seminars and lectures, etc., in order to pass. So for those of us who are adults who are just showing up for fun, you don't have to do any of that stuff if you don't want to. You could just audit it. Obviously, to get the most out of it, you want to go to school at Oxford and do all the stuff and do all the homework and attend all the lectures. But there are also going to be people in the classes who are there, and this is part of their degree. Is that the same thing for all of the other continuing education programs? I'm not sure, but clearly this is offered by the University of Oxford. If you are a high school student or you have a high school student and you are looking at programs, they don't have this for kids. So most programs that like a teenager can go to at Oxford, those aren't actually run by the school. They just rent out the colleges and they, play around and have fun there. This in particular is run by the Department of Education. So the program is set at Exeter College in Oxford. Oxford is a university made up of colleges. Colleges are the enclosed wall type places. And in Exeter, that is where, if you stay on campus, you're going to live, you're going to eat, you're going to do all of your classes. Now, the program, weirdly, is not actually associated with Exeter College. It's with the university. So you don't have access to everything at Exeter, even though you're staying there. But you do have access, so you don't have access basically to the Exeter Library, but you do have access to the university library, which is the Bodleian libraries. and as well as a lot of other perks. Honestly, the coolest thing about this program, one of the coolest things, was that access to the libraries. And nobody gets to go in these libraries. Like, you have to be a student, you have to have a student card, or you have to apply, like live there and apply to do research. It was amazing. They just let you like pull things up from the stacks, old letters. I touched a 14th century medieval manuscript. Plus, you get free access to all of these museums. Incredible experience. So that's what it is. So it's a writing program that takes place at Exeter. It's residential, or there's an option for non-residential, which I will talk about later. And over these 3 weeks, you are taking, it's basically 3 classes. So 2 of the classes are your creative writing classes, and they depend on which stream of the program you are part of. There's an intermediate stream, in which case you take a fiction class and a creative nonfiction class. And then there's the advanced stream. And in the advanced stream, you have a list of a whole bunch of other classes that are on offer to you. In summer of 2025, there were numerous advanced courses being offered, and they included creative nonfiction, fiction turning ideas into narratives, fiction fine-tuning your writing, middle grade and teen young adult fiction, poetry, script writing, and the short story. Now, if you're planning to the advanced program, you choose which of those 2 courses you want to do ahead of time. And then in the application, you write a personal statement that explains why you chose those 2 courses, why you're interested in them, and you provide a writing sample for each course. So, for example, I applied to the middle grade and teen and adult fiction and the script writing, so I included an excerpt from one of my YA novels and an excerpt from a script that I was working on. And then in my personal statement, I talked about why I wanted to take those courses. Now, I have a link below to my Substack where I actually published the full personal statement as well as actually the full application. So it has my excerpts and it has my personal statement in there. Generally, in the advanced, they say on the website that they expect you to have the equivalent of an undergraduate degree in English or something like that. I do not have that. I have an undergraduate degree in computer engineering and a master's also in engineering. But in my personal statement, I spoke to the fact that I'd taken university level writing courses, that I was very serious about my writing, having written several novels. I obviously have this writing YouTube channel that I've met lots of people through, and I've spent a lot of time on my writing and have done work in these areas. They call the advanced, or they let the advanced people choose their course because basically when you are less of a beginning writer, you've obviously chosen a specialty, so they expect you to already have work in these categories. Now, in addition to that, you do a seminar every morning. So it's 3 weeks. Your class meets twice a week, so you meet with your tutor 6 times total for 2 hours. So that's 12 hours of instruction plus a one-on-one tutorial. That's only 10 minutes, unfortunately, at the very end. That was the one thing that I was kind of sad about in the program. I thought we would get a little bit more of that Oxford tutor experience of the one-on-one time, just given the fact that the program is very expensive. And it did mention the tutorial, which again, you get a tutorial, but it's only 10 minutes and it's very rushed. So if I had one complaint with the program, it would be that. However, the seminars are quite small. I think they were all like 8 to 10 people. So you definitely get a lot of face time with the tutor, the instructor, regardless. So you're taking those courses twice a week for 2 hours. And then every morning you have a 2-hour lecture seminar by a different guest. Those lectures ranged from readings from some of the professors of their books. We had really cool, some poetry readings in there, to agents and editors coming to talk to us. We had someone who edited a comic book come, which was really cool, and talk about writing for children. We had a creative nonfiction workshop. We had some wonderful ones about like just writing techniques. So they really run the gamut. They were all very, very good. One of the best ones, I put a bunch of quotes from it. I'll share that Substack article below. Was basically called Writing Doesn't Love You. And she was hilarious. She was an obviously amazing writer and had so much insight to share. So a lot of it, some of it was practical, some of it was industry, some of it was just like information, you know, and just talking about writing and being a writer. And that was really, really cool. So that's what your school schedule is. You have your lectures every morning at 9 a.m., and then you have your 2 seminars during the week for 2 hours each. That sounds like not a lot. There are so many activities and things that they work into it. But let's talk about the actual classes a little bit more first. So these are real classes run in these small groups by tutors. So here I'm holding the syllabus for my middle grade and young adult class. And it has the schedule, and this is exactly what we did. We covered, understanding the market, taking the plunge, characters, tricks of the trade, etc., etc. They have a ton of content to teach, is what I found in my 2 courses. And a lot of it was not covered in class. Like, we didn't talk about it. There were a ton of handouts, and then there were, of course, readings you were expected to do ahead of time. So for middle grade and teen young adult, I think there were 2 books to read. And then for script writing, there were a number of plays as well as 2 books to read. For middle grade, young adult, we also read a book during the year, and then there were homework exercises throughout. Each course requires a final submission. I believe it's between 3,000 and 5,000 words. In middle grade YA, it was 3,000 word opening to a middle grade or a young adult novel. In script writing, it was an up to, I believe, 10-page script based on a prompt that he gave us. Other courses had similar requirements of 5,000 word short story, a 5,000 word piece of nonfiction, etc. Mine, I had 1 piece due for middle grade YA in the middle. It was a couple hundred words just to help that she did meet with us one-on-one to talk about and to help us get on our way. So we would improve and do well on the final assignment. Others, you had a lot more reading during the class and sharing and kind of doing workshopping. I kind of wish that my 2 classes had a little bit more of that. The middle grade YA one we did a good job on. Script writing was probably the one with the least amount of workshopping in the entire program, and the least amount of, there was no homework during the year. It was just the end of term assignment. And so I would say that the other ones had a lot more of, you're going to go home, you're going to write this, and then in 2 days you're going to show up on class and read it aloud for everybody. And we're going to workshop it and tell you how to get better, which I really appreciate the tutors doing. Obviously, they're getting paid, but it is a lot of marking they have to do throughout the program. And then at the very end, the assignments are all due so you have the arrival weekend, you arrive on a Sunday. They're all due not the next weekend, but the weekend after, because you then leave on a Friday. So your last week is when, you've already submitted your assignment, and you do your tutor sessions and everything that Friday. I'm going into excruciating detail. I will put timestamps. There's timestamps below if you haven't found them already. So that's kind of an overview of what the classes look like. I will try to scan these. I don't actually want to do that. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. That's an overview of what the classes look like. Like, they all have, course objectives, learning objectives, and reading lists. So you're reading in preparation for the courses. They reference those texts during the course, and then you're reading within the course and doing assignments and stuff. So some people were stressed. Like, by that last weekend, getting their final assignments done, they were very stressed because this is a program that has a lot of extracurricular events in it. So let's talk about the juicy things that make this so cool. So not only are you living and studying at Exeter College, here is a map of it here. You'll see that there's quadrangles, there's a chapel, there's the fellows garden. You're living in the dorms there. Someone in our course, she lived in Tolkien's old room. Exeter was Tolkien's college. She was living in Tolkien's old room. Is that not the coolest thing? We were like, you should be giving tours, $5 to enter. So cool. But you have a lot of things you have access to beyond that. And there's a whole kind of social and additional program that the school puts on. So the social calendar. The first thing that happens when you get there is you go to a reception in the Fellows Garden, a formal reception where men are required to wear jackets and ties and women are required to be in dresses and skirts and such. shoulders covered, knees covered, etc. And then they ring a gong and you go into the dining hall for formal dining. It's a multi-course meal. They give you a menu. There's wine. There was so much wine flowing. People were not finishing their glasses of wine because they are like different. There was maybe like 2 or 3 glasses of wine with the meal, but people weren't finishing them, which is kind of crazy to me. It's like you paid. It's not free. It's not even free wine. You paid for this wine. We all paid for this $3,000 experience to be at Oxford, and we're getting all this wine and we're not drinking it. What? Anyways, but the food is really, really good. Like soups, salads, appetizer, main. It's all like meat. Obviously, they cater to your dietary restrictions, and they have waiters going around serving everybody. And you're at the long tables, long tables. Oh my god, it's like the Great Hall in Harry Potter, and the porters, the people serving, are as efficient as the house elves. Things are just whisked away like magic. And then there are giant portraits everywhere of all past deans or whatever they call them. And the faculty really do sit at a long table at the front, and they hit a gavel or something when the meal starts. It's so weird. And they all wear robes because it's their like academic gown robe things. It's so cool. Like, blow your mind cool. And that's your first thing. And then you get another formal dinner at the end of term as well. Another like reception in the Fellows Garden, and then your formal dinner. And the food at those is super duper good. And then there's the social program. And I'm just going to read you a little bit of this. So on Monday, July 28th, which was the very first day, we had director's drinks. So again, intro drinks in the Fellows Garden, and then an Oxford city tour. On Tuesday, there was a peer-led writing workshop that night. I will say that never happened. Or at least I did not go. And I'll get to that in a moment. On the Wednesday, there were director's drinks for intermediate level students and the open mic session. The open mics were great. They were awesome. Thursday was a quiz night. Friday, there was a guided Oxford walking tour and a lecture that was an introduction to Bath. Saturday, an excursion to Bath. Then on Monday, they organized a walk in University Parks, another peer-led writing workshop, another open mic session, a pub walk. Excursion to Winchester was that evening, that weekend. Then the next Monday was walk in Jericho, another peer-led writing workshop. And it goes on and on. In addition to this, the students who were kind of the assistants there were organizing tours of the colleges for us. So they would have sign-up sheets that went up on the bulletin board, and you would write your name down, and they would take us for tours. So mostly, I think they were all pretty much for free with the card, because you do get a Bodleian library card, and you get tap access to Exeter, and they would take us through all of their own colleges, as well as colleges that were around. So we went to All Souls, we went to St. John's, we went to all of the big ones, which was amazing. Normally, again, you can book a tour to like go behind the gates, but you can really only see the green, right? You can see the green, you can see the chapel, but at Exeter and then at the colleges that our assistants went to, they were able to take us like really far inside. And I will say, it's amazing when there's like a crowd of tourists trying to peer over the gate and see into Exeter College, and you take your little card and you go click and you get access. It's so fun. Same with the Bodleian libraries, which is a huge perk of this. So the Bodleian Library is not one library. It's made up of many, many libraries actually all around the city. And so they're all so different. So you might remember Radcliffe Camera, which is the circular one. It's beautiful. The light is gorgeous. Then there's the old Bodleian, which has the room where they filmed some Harry Potter scenes. There's also, I can't remember, there's so many different libraries, and many that are close by and many that are further away, and you have access to all of them. The Weston is the other one, the Weston is the one with the special collections. So with your Bodleian library card, you are able to order materials ahead of time to look at. Some people had like pre-ordered old things that they wanted to see and gotten kind of pre-approval. I didn't realize that, yes, you can order the books to be there for you, and you retrieve them from a little shelf. But at Weston Special Collections, you can look at things like old letters, that 14th century manuscript that I mentioned, the medieval manuscript that I mentioned. You can order other things as well, like maps, and I don't think you're able to order very, very popular things, like they wouldn't let me get a Sappho fragment, you know what I mean? And some things that are very, very fragile, you have to kind of graciously say, okay, I'll look at the scan. But they do let you look at some things, and some people arranged in advance for the materials that they wanted to look at. And you can go and study at those libraries. So a lot of my free time was spent, hopping between the libraries and doing my writing and stuff there, which is, if nothing else, an amazing, amazing environment to be working. I was so productive. So that is all of the logistic information. Next, we're going to get into more of the tea, like my impressions, pros and cons, what's the vibe, etc. So one of the things that I was most worried about when I was thinking of the program was who is going to be here. Obviously, there is a class component, there's workshop components, there's a big peer component. A big benefit to any writing thing is who you're going to meet. So who will you meet at the Oxford program? There is a huge diversity of students. Not very many from the UK, but lots from the US, some from Australia, some from all around Europe, in a range of ages. Mostly they were 24 and under, 50 and over, or 35. Obviously, I'm an exception to that, but there were people kind of from all walks of life. So you had students right out of their undergrad. You had, published authors who were on their, X or whatever book. You had people who were doing MFAs. You had people about to enter MFAs. You had people who in their 40s and 50s getting ready to apply to Oxford for their PhD and using it as a chance to meet some faculty and to gain information and stuff. Some people were there as part of their career. There was a New York Times writer who was there, as well as teachers doing continuing education. There were also hobbyist authors who had completely different jobs. I suppose you could consider me one of those, although I try to be very serious. And they were there to have the experience as well. So a huge variety of people. I will say, obviously, there's a lot of people there. I think it's over 150 or something across all of the different seminars, maybe about 100 or 80 to 100. And so obviously, people grouped up. People were generally very welcoming, but, the itty bitty babies, the ones who were singing the craziest karaoke songs, all of us, I also said almost all of us in our 30s. I'm not 30. I was 28. I'm 29. But yeah, all of us in our 30s were there like, oh my God, these babies. And then you had, the people who were like 23, 24 really hanging out. So it was kind of by age. I kind of hung out a little bit more with the younger ones and went out with them, which was super fun. But sometimes it felt a little weird and a little awkward. I felt very old, and part of me wishes I'd spent a little bit more time trying to get to know some of the older, more experienced folks there, because there were some really cool people. Obviously, the young ones were super cool as well. But yeah, there's so many people you want to get to know who are so interesting, who are coming from all walks of life. You're probably going to leave being like, I wish I knew you better, which is always a great sign. So in terms of the cost of the program, first we have to talk about whether you are on campus or off campus, because there's both a residential and a non-residential option. Most people, the vast majority, do the residential, but a bunch of people were non-residential as well. Oh, there was also an Oxford fellow, like someone who was a fellow, I think it's like a postdoc. No one's ever been able to properly explain this to me, but he definitely worked for Oxford, like at a different college, and was there on the program. And he was great. We went to a bar and he bought everybody drinks. It was very exciting. Anyways, so yeah, you can be residential or non-residential. Most people are residential, which means they're living in college. So they are in the same dorms that students at Exeter would be staying in, on numerous levels. They're very nice. I went into one. They have a bedroom. They all have a little sitting room, ensuite. They have kettles, windows onto the quad or facing over Oxford. It includes all your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, except I believe for lunches and dinners on Saturday and for lunch on Sunday, and maybe breakfast as well. I'm not sure about that. But most of your meals are included. If you're non-residential, it includes your lunch, but none of the other meals. Obviously, the opening and closing receptions are the exception to that. Now, I will say that people were getting very bored and tired of the food after a while, and they seemed to think it had gone downhill as the weeks went on. I think the chef might have gone on vacation for a little bit, which is fair because it was August. So I was very happy to run into the Tesco or whatever it was and just get myself an egg salad sandwich for dinner and have like a bigger lunch. Anyways, I was able to find a nice Airbnb that was less expensive than staying in college would have been. It was fairly close by. It was like 10 minutes by Voice electric scooter. So I got the little month-long subscription to Voy, which is the scooters in Oxford, and I just commuted in, and it was really fun because there's tons of people bike riding and scootering in all over the city, and it's a beautiful, beautiful ride in. I had a blast doing it. If you are staying non-residential, I recommend being as close to the college as possible. One girl was quite far away and in a slightly sketchy area. She brought a bike for commuting and it was stolen halfway through the program. We all felt really bad, so she had to like figure out the bus and stuff, which is too bad. There's obviously a few other disadvantages to being non-residential. You miss some social opportunities like meal times, the breakfast and dinner when people are chatting. You don't really bond over like, oh, what's your room like? You know what I mean? And you lose out on some of the interactions with like porters. The most annoying to me was to figure out what to do with my backpack when I wanted to go out because I didn't want to go all the way home to drop the backpack off. So I would hide it in the JCR, which I'll talk about in a second. But obviously being non-residential, you get a card that allows you access to the college 24/7 whenever you want, and to a common room, the JCR, and to the gardens and everything like that. So you can totally still hang out at the college all day long. I would literally leave my Airbnb at like 7:30 in the morning and get back at 11 p.m. on a good day. Sometimes it was much later than that. So it's like a full on 14 to 16 hour day. This is an intense program. And now in terms of costs, so I paid 2,410 Great British pounds for the non-residential program, which works out to about 3,200 US dollars. That's about $1,000 a week, which, you know, is fairly decent, given you get all of that instruction, meals included, access to the libraries, all these perks, and then the classes themselves. It's pricey, for sure, very pricey, but it felt worth it to me. I think if you do residential, it brings you up to around 4,000 or so pounds, so that 5,000-6,000 USD mark. So it's not a cheap program by any means, but it is an amazing experience. And some people were able to get it paid for by their work or through particular like scholarship opportunities or grants. So if you're going to spend $3,000, $4,000 on this program, what are the pros and cons? So pro number one, you have experienced professional Oxford tutors. Now, not all of them are professors at Oxford during the school year. Some of them are, some of them aren't. A bunch of them did actually go to Oxford. It's really cute. Julie Hearn and Sandy, Julie Hearn's one of the tutors, and Sandy is like the overarching creative summer school program. They went to Oxford at Exeter College together with Philip Pullman. And they're all like really cute friends. It's so cool. Anyways, you have very high caliber tutors who are teaching your writing. They give you feedback. You get a little bit of an experience of like an Oxford education. The education aspect is very high quality. They do a great job. You receive grades. You get your one-on-one meeting. It's awesome. Con there is I wish that those one-on-one meetings were weekly or at least longer. And some courses had more homework feedback than others. It's not standardized across the board how much feedback you're getting on your writing. And if you've heard anything from me before, I'm very enthusiastic about getting feedback on your writing, and that being a core part of the value of any course you do. Pro, you're surrounded by a super diverse group of people. As I talked about, there's people from all over. The con for that is it felt like a touch of MFA snobbery. I was in the courses that probably had the least of it, being middle grade YA and script writing. But, you know, I definitely felt like an idiot in some conversations, being the only person who'd never read Salinger or Sylvia Plath. They're on my list now. Obviously, I'm going to go read them, but I haven't done it yet. It's been 6 months. But I was a little like, oh, okay. So there's definitely some like MFA academic type mindsets. I think almost a little bit more among the younger ones who are coming from school and English degrees and stuff than from the older people like me. Pro, the schedule is well balanced. Having the course meet twice a week with the plenaries is a really great cadence. Con, there are so many activities on offer that if you did all of them, you would not have any time to actually write. In addition to the social calendar, you have all your meals, which you're socializing at, plus people do things like all the time. They'll be hanging out in the Undercroft bar. They'll be here, they'll be there. And if you're looking for a writing retreat with focused time on writing, there are distractions that can prevent you from that. You do have to have some discipline to create that time for yourself. It's a great environment to write, and a lot of people are writing, and everyone, when you see someone, you're like, how's your writing going? Awesome. I love being in a group of people where that's the first question you ask someone. How's your writing going today? I love that. But there is always something going on, and it can be a little bit overwhelming. Pro, you're at Oxford, and you get to experience what it's like behind the wall. It's everything you could want in like a dark academia in real life. Con, it is school, so you're not there to live out your dark academia romantasy vibes or whatever. Is that a thing? I don't think those two things mix. If you don't want to, work hard and do your assignments, why bother? Don't pay the $3,000 just to chill. Maybe like do a tour or something. And Pro, Exeter College has the best view of the Radcliffe camera in Oxford, which means it probably has the best view in Oxford, and the sunsets are incredible. So here are my tips. Number 1 for application. If you are doing the intermediate stream, secure your spot early. Just make sure you have it. There is no application. You just have to pay for it. Do it. Make sure you get a spot. If you are in advanced, I suggest you also apply early, because if you don't get in, then you can always sign up for the intermediate. Advanced is evaluated in 3 rounds. I believe it's March, April, May were the rounds. And so in each round, there were a certain number of spots reserved for each round. The last round, they were late getting back to us, about when, the acceptance. They got back to us a couple days later than they thought because they had so many applications. So if you want to have the best chance, probably applying earlier is better for you. I'm going to link below the Substack where I included my full application. Just make sure you talk about very specifically why you want to do the genre that you choose and what experience you have in that genre. And then, choose your best pieces from there. Interestingly, the tutors only got our personal statements, not our writing samples. So I'm not sure how much those are evaluated, but I know the personal statement they pay a lot of attention to. And then the fun stuff, my tips for if you go to the program. Woohoo! Number 1, buy a hoodie. I also have my little baby bear. So all of my bears over here are the schools that I've attended. So I have Hopkins, I have Queen's, I have Exeter University, very confusingly, which is a different university in England that I attended for a semester. And then I have the Oxford Bear, but it is the baby bear because I didn't get a degree or work towards a degree from there. But I did attend something, so it counts. Anyways, these are my tips. So number 1 is drop your existing projects for 3 weeks. Go in and do something completely new. That's the spirit of it. You're in there to learn as much as possible, to test your writing chops. It's kind of boring, honestly, if you are just doing something that you have been working on for a while. Even in open mics and stuff, you're welcome to get feedback on things that already exist. But it's kind of in the spirit, especially in the classes, to be writing something new. And some tutors insist on it. If you feel really proficient in something, you could try a different specialization. Don't go for the one that's necessarily going to be your strength. It's a great opportunity to try something new and stretch your skills. I was working a full-time job for part of the program, only part of it. I took a bunch of time off, and that was a lot. Take the time off work. I am lucky that I have a very flexible job, but I was up very late at night, and I was very tired by the end. I had the middle week off, which was most important because that's when our assignments were due, that second weekend. My next tip is come up with a side research project, anything that interests you, so you can make use of the Bodleian special collections, whether it's the library or it's the Weston special collections, where you get the rare books and letters and things like that. But there's also obviously thousands and thousands and thousands of books available to you. Maybe it has to do with your writing, maybe it doesn't, but have something you're interested in. I spent 3 weeks studying Sappho. I was comparing different translations, and I learned all about her language and how she'd been interpreted in different time periods. I keep meaning to do an article on this. I did use it in my play, though, and just use the libraries, like go there to write. Visit the museums and libraries where you have free access. I wish I had spent more time in special collections. I didn't understand that I could actually order from there until like the last week. So I was in a little bit of a rush. And I read a lot of, geneticist letters. And it's really cool. Like I was just given all this man's personal correspondence for his entire life. This like famous geneticist. So cool. So yeah, use that. It's the coolest thing ever. Like they have maps, they have all sorts of really interesting stuff, but I would like look ahead of time at Weston libraries so you can plan it out and make the most of it, because that's like, it's such rare access to have. Next one, don't buy tickets for the weekend excursions. There's so much to see in Oxford itself. You couldn't possibly see it in 3 weeks with all the stuff that you're doing. And they're kind of expensive, and it's just a bus tour, but you're just paying for the bus to go there. They're not even giving you a tour. Also, especially the second weekend, people had so much homework. Now, if you really want to go somewhere, like go, don't listen to me. But also by the second weekend, people were giving their tickets away because they were so stressed about getting their assignments done. So do the tours of the colleges, do the walking tours, but I would focus on staying in Oxford. If you're staying off campus, use the junior common room, the JCR, as your personal locker, nap room, and study space. That is the solution to what do I do with my bag when I want to go to the club. It wasn't a club, the piano bar with these people, and I don't want to bring a giant bag. Put it in the JCR. The college is locked. The room is locked. It's fine. And finally, the tables outside the Undercraft bar are wonderful. Students tend to congregate there before and after dinner. That's where we hang out. It's great. Oh, also go see concerts in the chapels. Yes, do that. And you get discounts on so many things, like entrances to different colleges, certain tours, etc. Use them with your Bodleian library card. All right, that's it for me. That's everything I can possibly think to tell you about the Oxford Summer Creative Writing Summer School. If you have questions, please leave them below. If you've done any like experiences like this elsewhere, tell me about them. I would love to hear about it. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Nicole Wilbur. I'll put tons of links below for you to check out, and I'll see you next time.